I don't know how to.
Oh my God.
I'm technically illiterate. I don't know what
Oh
I'm
my
doing.
God. Is this being recorded?
Yes.
The EV Cafe. On time 24. I need more helium. Hang on.
Welcome
to the EV Cafe
here
at the AA.
At the Carter Academy.
Fleet Mobility Live,
The Business Design Centre in Islington.
live at the IGT Hub 2023. So let's go.
No, fuck that. Who are the EV Cafe?
For a team of experts.
Bunch of legends. Crazy people.
These guys are on tour in 24. And I'll be there too.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the EV Cafe special Valentine's Day webinar. I'm Johnny Berry, your moderator for today's session, proudly representing Navuna Vehicle Solutions in my day job. Today we're embracing the spirit of love and, well, the occasional spat as we delve into what we adore and what irks us about electric vehicles. Now, as we navigate through the highs and lows of EVs and EV ownership and EV charging and the industry's future, we've gathered a panel of passionate experts who, just like in any good relationship, will share their love stories and their occasional disagreements with EVs. More on that later. However, let's start by introducing the heartbeats of the EV Cafe. We have John Curtis, Operations Director. He brings a bouquet of insights and anecdotes, making our weekly news sometimes feel like a love letter about all things EV.
Oh, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me, JB. Bless your heart.
In the spirit of love.
Every day should be Valentine's Day in my book, then.
Then on to Sarah Sloman from PayThrough, returned as our charging payment solutions enchantress. Her insights are today like receiving a Valentine's Day card filled with solutions to charging payment challenges.
Yeah.
I did have a little bit of help with ChatGPT on these intros.
Excellent. I love mine. I like the idea that I open the Valentine's Day card and loads of great acquiring rates and fee processing rates fall out onto my lap and you go, we love PayThrough as much as you do.
Brilliant. Then on to Paul Kirby, our Cupid of electric commercial vehicles. His expertise not only captures hearts, but also keeps the industry aiming for higher standards in the commercial vehicle world. How was that, Paul? Was that all right?
I'm loving that, JB. That's the best introduction I've ever had. Well,
yeah.
Nice.
And then we've got Sam Clark. So on to the show.
I knew it. As soon as I came last, as soon as you put me last, like I know what's going to happen next.
No, and the one and only Sam Clark from GridServe, who electrifies the public EV charging network, and his work is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
There's a fair chance it's ginger.
And I think it's important to note that for those of you that want to get even closer to us, please make sure that you tune in via Zoom, where the real magic happens. It's your chance to engage with us directly and ask any of us or our guests for any of your burning questions, whether they're bouquets or brickbats. I had to Google brickbats, to be fair.
That's horrific, Johnny.
So what are they?
It's using a brick as a weapon, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But first, before we start, I think a moment to express our heartfelt thanks to our generous supporters, the Cupids enabling today's discussion, our gold partners. They are PayThrough, Zaptec, BAA, Plug Me In, Europcar, and Webfleet. I just want to say that their continued support is the love potion that makes events like this possible. Right, that's enough of that now. So, and without further ado, let's jump into the heart of today's theme, love and hate. Paul, I want to start with you, and I want to know about a time when your love affair with electric commercial vehicles began.
Oh, well, do you know what? That is a really great question, because it was back in 2004 with a flirtation with an electric Sprinter. I got to drive it. It had top speed of 40 miles, 40 miles an hour, and a range of 40 miles an hour, and you pretty much could carry a bag of crisps in it. So let's just say the electric van had some work to do before it was going to win my heart. But fast forward a few years into lease plan and spending time with customers, really helping them kind of begin that journey with 60 or 80 miles range and a bit more payload, and things got a little bit better. And of course, in around about 2021, I just thought there is no voice out there for electric vans. They need a platform. And that was when I really kind of went all in with electric vans. And, the love affair has grown since. And what a start to the year that we've had. Man, so many launches of large electric vans, ranges of up to 271 miles now for the forthcoming electric Sprinter, upgraded, of course, from the older one. And, we're seeing 261 miles for the Movano and 255 miles for the Renault Master. Finally, Renault getting back to black. It's great. Electric vans, what's not to love?
I don't suppose there's anyone else in the team that has any experience with electric commercial fleets, is there?
Nah, don't think so.
No. Sam, what about you?
I know, what was the question again? I can't remember. What's my life story? Was that the question?
Was when does the love affair begin?
Love affair began. Wow. When did the love affair? That's easy, actually. That's 2001, riding an electric scooter in China and just going, whoa, not knowing what the hell was going on. So that's when it all started for me. And I still remember that day riding along and no helmet, no rules, no license, nothing. Just, in a dirt road in the middle of I don't even know where it was. I probably couldn't even find it now if I looked for it. But that's where it all started for me back in 2001, I think it was. Yeah. And in those days, EVs were everywhere in China. And you could buy one off the from a newsagent for $250 on the corner of the street. But things have moved on a bit since then. But yeah, that's when it all started for me, long time ago.
How about you, JC?
Do you know what? I've just been racking my brains. 1974 is the honest answer. So the first
a year after me then, John, was it?
Honestly, 1974 was the first time I'd ever been in an electric car. It was my brother's, and it was a Christmas present, and it was one of these ride-on red electric cars with a tiny little battery. And we used to go around the garden, and I always wanted to get kind of a handbrake turn thing going on, a bit of a drift, going around the washing line. Fantastic. I absolutely loved it, fell in love, and all these years later, it's just come back to me that truly was the first electric vehicle experience. I smiled then, I smile now. They are awesome.
And JC, you're now conducting the EV rally across the UK with Greenfleet, or you did last year, and you've got plans for this year.
Indeed, yeah. Sarah and I will be taking about 100 people and loads of vehicles around the country once more on the A to Z of electric vehicles, because it's not as hard as people think. And yes, EVs aren't the answer to everything. We live in the real world. There's petrol, there's diesel, there's all sorts of alternative fuels, but electric suits a need case, and we're showing that the need case is pretty wide, and electric vehicles can work in a whole range of solutions, many of which you never even thought about.
And I can see in the comments that we've got Nigel Boyle, I believe from Giddy Hook, drove an electric milk float. I'd like to know when that was. And Michael Barton was a VW e-Golf, hired by his car about 6 years ago. So yeah, we'd like to hear more on that. And then finally, how did you
Darren Anvener is an electric go-kart. They are very cool.
Yes. Yeah, I think we did that not so long ago, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, it was.
And I won.
A bit twice.
Sarah, over to you. How do you get into this space?
I've always been on the infrastructure side, so very naturally the walking and cycling infrastructure led to larger transport, but it was installing or watching, was nothing to do at the time, a charger go in about 2010, and I was very curious about that, and then very naturally that became my ultimate job. But I've been driving fully electric now since I ditched the diesel back in, I think it's 2017. So the years are racking up in terms of flying the flag, and with no home charger as well, I'm improving continuously that you can at least break even transferring your diesel life to an electric life, even without the advantages of the home charger. So loving it, continuing to love it. I do hope we will touch on some of the hate though, because that's the point of this webinar, is to balance out the things we've overcome versus the stuff we all clearly love. And one of those things is how to dissuade the naysayers and encourage the positive stories coming out on top of that.
I did think that would be good to start on a positive, but you're quite right there, Sarah.
Yeah, well, you know, negative ninny in the corner is always going to bring up something realistic.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I've just noticed a few more new experiences. Lots of people have very early experiences with electric vehicles. One that I will shout out was Marvin Samuels, because it's actually what was inspired me, actually, was the GM's EV1 in the mid-90s. So that's what got me interested. And there was a very good film years ago by Sony Pictures called Who Killed the Electric Car? And I remember that just sparked this thing inside me. So anyway, without further ado, I think it's now time to welcome our panel speakers. So over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Yes, go on, Paul. Go on, why not? Go on.
No, I was just thinking we're going to run a video first, just before this first speaker.
Thank you. Yeah, and also I wanted to do my little announcement, my very love-fueled announcement.
Do that first, Sarah. Do your announcement first.
Okay, I'll do it really, really quick. Okay, so everybody knows, thanks to the huge swell of support in 2023 through to now, for the Barbara Cox Woman of the Year bursary, which I pledged to pay it forward in honour of inclusivity. So we, as a Five, have decided that I really toyed with how to do this. I'm not going to name names, still on the basis that it was an open application process, but I will name the courses that we have decided to fund. So I'm very, very proud that the Cox Automotive bursary is going to be used for an Open University course in social media marketing for one applicant, an Oxford University online course for the future of sustainable business. This is all about enterprise and the environment. And a third one, mental health in the workplace first aider course. And that is all the money used for that. And anything remaining after we've paid all of those bills will go to Shelter, which of course is a homeless charity. And they run a very significant campaign where if you are homeless, you will be given a meal and a bed and an outfit before an interview. And I, to that, just think it affects everyone in ways we'll never understand. So they deserve the rest of the bursary. And I'm very happy for everyone to celebrate this anonymously, of course, but still well done to those who applied. And thank you for the support.
Thank you,
Fantastic.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well done, Sarah.
Yeah, great.
Right, can I run the VT now?
Run VT, run VT.
Run VT, run VT, run VT.
Running.
Paul! Oh, hey, JC. Hey. So, we're welcoming a new gold sponsor. Who is it? So, I'm lucky enough to have grabbed Tim Morris, Head of Marketing for Europcar. Tim, what madness has struck you?
Why are we partnering with the EV Cafe? Yes, so look, we both want the same thing. We both want to see more people driving electric vehicles. You guys help people get over the FUD, the fear, uncertainty and doubt. We can give them the real life driving experience driving electric vehicles.
It is a fantastic opportunity to combine our forces, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And what do you expect the output to be? What are we going to do together?
Well, hopefully you'll help us create some engaging content. You can help us talk to our customers, and maybe you can help us explain to our customers why electric vehicles are vehicles that people should be driving.
Absolutely. And I know that we've got a great opportunity to speak to the wider business as well and help everybody on the journey.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got an EV-ready audience, an EV-curious audience. We've got some EV-curious customers. We want to help them get them over that curiosity and get them driving electric vehicles. Give them some real-life experience, trying electric vehicles for themselves, whether that be for a day, a week, or maybe longer.
It's a fantastic opportunity to get bums on seats, folks. Anyway, let's get over to JC and find out more.
Thanks, Paul. I've got Evelyn Torres here, and she's in charge of the customer experience at Europcar. Evelyn, what can customers expect when they come to Europcar to hire a car or a van?
Yeah, so when customers rent from Europcar, then they can expect a whole wide range of vehicles, not just cars, as you said, vans. We've got lots of vehicles from different OEMs, some of the top models on our fleet as well. We've got a range of ICE vehicles, so your petrols, your diesels. We've also got a wide range of electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids. In fact, they'll represent 20% of our fleet this year.
And what do you get from Europcar in terms of being able to manage a fleet? Because a lot of our customers are fleet managers.
Yeah.
Why come to Europcar?
Yeah, because, well, why not? Europcar, we are the leading car rental company, certainly in my eyes. We deliver a great service to our customers, speed of service, quality of vehicles. We've got before, during, after care for our customers. So yeah, why not come to Europcar?
And ultimately, I suppose, flexibility in terms of being able to just pick one up, take it away, get on with your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got daily rental, so you can rent for a day, a weekend, a week, a month. We've got long-term rental. You can pick up your vehicle in one location, you can drop it off in another location anywhere across the UK. So one of the key things that we offer is a nationwide delivery and collection service. We can basically deliver an electric vehicle out within 4 hours of receiving the booking.
That's outstanding.
Of course.
Why wouldn't you? Europcar, they're amazing. Tell you, that's going to be such an amazing partnership. Great for fleets.
Man, and great for the consumer as well, getting bums on seats.
Might even get them a discount.
Amazing.
Supposed to be music on the end of that. That was good.
Definitely royalty free, that music, that.
Steady.
Great video. Right then. So we have an introduction to certain Mr. Newbury then. Mr. Mark.
Yeah.
Mr. Mark Newbury. Look at that. I was going to say come on camera, but he was there like a fly on the proverbial. Right. So introduction. Mark has been in the insurance, automotive, and mobility industry for over 20 years in a variety of commercial and leadership roles. Mark is the commercial director at Europcar UK and Ireland. Europcar being a global leader, as we all know already, in vehicle rental, providing cars, vans and trucks 24/7, 365 in over 140 countries worldwide as well. Mark personally is passionate about sustainability and mobility, which is just as well being in this forum and helping businesses and private motorists transition into zero-emission vehicles, which is where Europcar can play a lead role. Outside of work, Mark is a father of 3 daughters. I can only imagine how hard that is. A keen sportsman, is neurodivergent, which means he's in good company in this forum as well. And a trustee of a local community charity. Little known fact, this is a good one. J.K. Rowling, do we all know her? Yes, we do. Almost certainly never tells her friends she was born in the same cottage hospital in South Gloucester as our guest, Mr. Mark Newbury. Mark, welcome to the show. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the intro as well. And yeah, over to you, really. Tell us a little bit more. And yeah, what are your love and hates?
Yes, yeah. Thank you. So first off, really delighted to be here, making my EV Cafe debut, and surrounded by esteemed guests. It really is a roll call of kind of automotive and EV royalty today. And I should just say, well done to Tim and Evelyn. That video stuff there. That's not easy. And I think they did an amazing job. So thank you, Paul and John for helping them. So to keep the Valentine's theme, I think I should introduce myself properly. So my name's Mark, and I'm from Bristol. That's a blind date gag. It's a program that happen. But
excellent.
Yeah,
well done.
People of a certain age, Mark. People of a certain age. Yeah.
Europcar. Just quickly, we're in 140 countries. We're the biggest in Europe. In the UK, we have around 45,000 vehicles, cars, vans, trucks, and we supply them to all sorts of individuals and businesses. I think when folks think of car rental, traditionally what they think of is Sunday holidays on weekends in Madeira, and using EVs, like Paul did with our Europcar EV, to have a lovely time away. But actually, the use cases for rental is much broader than that. And in the UK, about 65-70% of our income is from helping businesses. So businesses right across all different sectors, up and down the UK. So whether or not that's pre-lease, or the vehicle's broken down, or it's had an accident and they need cover, or if it's construction or business travel, or they've got a project in a different part of the country and they need to fleet up, they need to fleet down, they need to refresh their fleet. And it's the flexibility of days, weeks, months that really makes a difference. So we're really dedicated actually about just helping folk do the things they need to do, whether or not that's in their personal life or in their work life. And Europcar was founded 75 years ago, so it's a big year for the business. And the purpose back then was to mutualise this really expensive asset that was the motor car. How can you help folk have access to mobility when they can't afford it? And in many ways, the entrepreneurial spirit of helping folk is true about the business today. So you know, one of the big things that we're helping folk with now is this transition into more sustainable mobility. As we started with ourselves, so last year 86% of our folk, as in employees who drive vehicles, drive EVs. So that's a real step change in terms of our own personal CO2 output. And we did 50,000 more car rental days in EVs last year than we did in 2022, which is 3.5 million EV miles driven by our customers. So, you know, every EV mile is not an ICE mile. Every EV mile is contributing to this reduction in carbon. So, you know, we really believe that if you give folk access to these vehicles, if you get bums on seats, if they experience it, that can help overcome all of the wall of noise that they read and hear. Because, you know, I think folk are pretty time poor. Pictures and headlines is what they see and what they receive, but we need to kind of listen, understand, and educate. But that experiential learning, sitting in the car for a period of time, or the van, and experience that helps you overcome almost in a nanosecond all of those fears and doubts. And so there's one thing that we want to try and do is to give people access to try. And then when they try, they understand. When they understand, they believe, and then they'll convert. So yeah, that's my intro, Sam.
Mark, have you had any challenges, any difficulties, drivers taking a vehicle and really struggling with it?
Yeah, I think I mean just personally, so my first EV was an MG5, and that felt like a normal car that happened to be automatic, and you just charged it in. The next vehicle I had was a Tesla Model 3. Now, I've not really had premium vehicles before, and to begin with, that felt for me initially over-engineered. I just wanted to open the door. I just wanted to open the boot. It had a steeper learning curve, but now I understand it. I love it. I think it's probably the best vehicle I've ever driven. So we've trained folk in our stations specifically to be able to conduct a thorough handover to try and make sure that the hirer is comfortable with the EV that they have. We've also created an online EV guide with access to Zap Maps. It gives you a full summary of the fleet of vehicles. There's charging solutions there as well that we provide. So we've tried to think about the different moments that customers might have queries and create an online guide and tools and resources that help them overcome that. But yeah, you know, we you know, it's a classic charging anxiety, range anxiety, and so it's all the tools that we have to try and overcome that. And we find, I think, on average, our daily usage in terms of mileage of an EV is something like 40 miles, and we know the average mileage that an EV can do is about 250 up, and that's only ever going to get better. So the disparity between that fear and actually what the car can do is there, and we just try to help customers understand that.
Yeah, just on that point. Sorry, I was going to say on that point, Mark, it's a useful one. I think that the government recently put some guidance out there earlier in February in regards to some information on statistics around EVs and infrastructure. And just to your point there, one of the things they pointed out was that 99% of journeys in the UK are less than 100 miles. Obviously, there's a large proportion is less than 10 miles, but 99% of them is less than 100 miles.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, most electric vehicles now average just under 300-mile range. New vehicles coming to market. Yeah. So it just shows you, 99% of journeys is comfortably within the range of an EV now. And those statistics will continually improve as well. So it's very much in line with what you just said.
Yeah, perfect. Cool.
I think to your point, Mark, you mentioned about kind of trying to remove some of those things, because obviously one of the difficult things for people when they're first experiencing an EV is the electric vehicle charging infrastructure kind of element. And that was one of the things that really impressed me about being able to go to Madeira, because I threw myself into the mix of being a new EV driver, because I had no idea what the island had. I didn't know where it was and all of that kind of stuff. And the guys helped me understand what the local app was, but also gave me a card that I could use across the island. And what I loved was that I didn't have to bring it back 100% charge, because that, that's the big nervousness of returning any rental car, full to full and all that kind of business. But you've taken away a lot of those barriers that would have been a real challenge for me. and you've allowed me to experience that vehicle, getting my bum on that seat for a week, and it was a really seamless experience and took away the potential for hate. And I think because charging infrastructure has been the challenge for many, and on an island like Madeira, it's pretty important, let me tell you.
Yeah, there's a few hills on that island, but yeah, it's the same principle in the UK. When you return it, we ask that you return it with about 20% left, and that just gives us an opportunity to charge, and if we need to move the vehicle about a bit, we can. So again, we're trying to remove that that expectation and that need from customers, and what we find actually, particularly with business travel customers, they'll fly into airports, they'll use it for a day or two, they don't really need to charge, they can just return it. So it actually saves them time, so they don't need to go to a garage. So having that flexibility is really customer focused. Okay, Sarah. I can see a couple more hands up. Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah, you had a question.
Yeah, but I think you were first. I was being cheeky and not raising my hand. So you go.
But that's okay, because I'm a gentleman.
I'm not. Okay, great. And I just barge in like that. Never ill intention. Yeah, exactly. He didn't even raise his hand, just butted in, but it was worth it. It was good data. So this is great. I had a question around. Well, it mirrors one that Linda's got in the chat actually. Oh, maybe it wasn't Linda. 86% of staff. Number one, how many staff is that? Because there's lots of people wanting to mirror other companies' success. So roughly, how many staff? Is that 86%?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it might be 150, 200, something like that. It's a decent number. Yeah.
Thanks. But the main thing I wanted to ask was, I'm really starting to think the days of long leases are gone. I got tied into a couple of 3-year ones, which I just hated having. And with so many EV models coming out so regularly, I think this sort of way of consuming EV is great. Like I'm on a 90-day rolling rental via salary sacrifice, which I love, but actually 90 days also feels a little bit too short. I love the Tesla Y. Why would I get rid of it? So what do you think, what are you seeing is the ideal EV rental period, do you think?
Yeah, really good questions. So we see good take up on 1, 2, 3 days, again, where they don't think they have to charge it. We see less take up on a 3 to 7 day period, because then they do have to charge it, but it might perception is it's a bit of effort to go through for maybe a week, but from that week, 2 weeks onwards, where they know that they need to adjust to the charging in the system and understand the infrastructure, we see good take up there. So it's interesting. I think so we can do days, weeks, months, we can do years, but the contracts are kind of no obligation. So a customer can bring it back after 90 days if they would like to and change. And so it does give you an opportunity to experience a range of EVs and or access more modern EVs as that tech continues to improve. And I guess in many ways it means that organisations like us, we take the financial burden and risk. It's not on your balance sheet or it's not, but it gives you access to the latest vehicles.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Really flexible.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, team. Good questions. JC, did you have one last question before we move over to the next guest?
It was more a statement, my friend, and that was just if you have a question for Mark, for Edmund, or for you and our later guests, please put them in the Q&A. This is a panel which is extremely hard to get together. This is your opportunity to find out what's going on inside these massive organisations. So use that time wisely, get in the Q&A box and ask your questions. Thank you, JB. I shall shut up.
Brilliant, JC, and we'll answer those questions a bit later on, won't we? So, Sam, Mark, thanks for your comments and thanks for answering those questions. It's been excellent. Please do stay on for those questions shortly. But in the meantime, Sam, would you like to welcome our next guest?
Yes, very happy to. We've got a couple more guests to get through. A couple of layabouts, a visiting professor and a doctor, but no one special. Anyway, Mr. Edmund V. King. Yes, that's right. He has a V in the middle of his name, and therefore he is literally the EV King. Unbelievable. But none of this is your intro, by the way, Ed. I'm just ad-libbing, and I haven't even started. Right, Edmund V. King is AA President and the Trustee and Director of the AA Charitable Trust for Road Safety and the Environment. He is also a visiting professor at Transport at Newcastle University. He has written. This bit makes me laugh. He has written several reports. He's written loads of reports on transport and often appears, I'm rechanging that to always appears, as a transport commentator on radio, television and podcasts talking about EVs. He was awarded an OBE for services to road safety legend in the 2016 Queen's New Year Honours List. Edmund once worked for a classic rock station, which when you hear him speak will become abundantly clear as to why that's a good idea. K-Earth 101 in Los Angeles. We do have a picture, Johnny. I don't know whether you're able to show it or not. No, he's shaking his head. I don't know whether he wants it.
Oh, no.
Anyway.
Oh, no. Bring it on, bring it on.
It's absolutely incredible. But anyway, Ed, it's lovely to have you on the show once again. And for everyone listening, if you would like to just turn your volume down 1 or 2 notches, it's probably a good idea because the wonder and the legend that is about to speak. So, Edmund, welcome as always. Thank you for being on the show and give us a little bit of the love and hate from your perspective.
Well, welcome to K-Earth 101 Classic Rock and Roll with Edmund King. Yeah, that takes me back about 30 odd years to living in LA and being a DJ. And good job you haven't got the picture that looks like David Hasselhoff or something.
We've got it.
Very big hair, but very big hair.
I will find it.
But onto a more serious love and hate subject. The AA is really here to create confidence for drivers now and for the future. And if you look back over 120 years, that is exactly what our forefathers at the AA actually did, you know, from 1905 with the red flag in front of cars, etc. We opened the first filling station, we put up the first road signs, etc. So that's always been very important for us. And it's important for us today with people's driving lives. So we teach people to drive, we have driver training through Drive Tech, you can buy cars through the AA, through AA cars, you can lease cars. Obviously, we repair cars, we attend to breakdowns, etc. You can insure cars, we can do service maintenance and repair. All of these things we can do. And I think today, talking about love and hate, and particularly looking at the kind of EV transition, I think we are at a really, really important pivotal period. And why I say that is it's easy for us to love EVs, you know, and like Sam, I drove my first EV, or I had my first EV in 2001, and they've got better range, more exciting. They're easy to love. So it's easy for us to love them, and we can all give very positive stories. But we still have a real job to do to bring the public along with us. And we know this at the AA because we do poll our members every month. And what I would say is that our members don't hate EVs, you know, despite some headlines trying to make out that you should hate them. You know, they don't work in the cold, etc., etc. We've had all that nonsense, which at the AA we tried to rectify today, and we've got a story out showing in December EVs didn't break down more than normal. It was only 2.3% that broke down, etc., etc. So we're spreading that message. So they don't hate EVs, but there is no doubt that drivers are hesitant about the switch. And we've got to help them with that hesitancy. And we probably shouldn't be surprised. You know, it is quite a big jump for individuals to go from a combustion engine, petrol, diesel to an EV because of that uncertainty. And, you know, it's not just our research at the AA. There's some really interesting figures came out a couple of weeks ago from DFT's National Travel Attitude Survey. And it actually showed 40% of drivers said they had no or very low knowledge about EVs. So that is almost half of drivers that we've got to help to educate. And also 27% agreed that public chargers have long queues. Now, how 27% can agree that when only 2% have EVs, and You know, and we know that they don't have long queues, but we also know that, you know, one picture from Sky News or one picture from Exeter Services kind of shows that was the case once. But, you know, in all my journeys, I mean, long queues, I've probably come across 4 or 5 queues, you know, in the last 5 years. But if that is the perception, that's what we've got to overcome. And that's out of the National Travel Survey. I mean, our own research at the AA shows perceived barriers are the expense of the car, you know, when you first get your EV. And again, you know, it is fine for those who can get it via salary sacrifice and all of that. Fantastic deals. But for others, they do still see it as more expensive. The prices are coming down. The used car prices, there's a great range of cars there. So that is changing. But that's still a perceived problem. Lack of confidence in the charging infrastructure, you know, whether we agree or not, it is still a problem. So it needs to address that. You know, people running out of charge, we need to address that. You know, some also talk about the expense of energy. So all of those things are out there. All of those things are real. So I think it really is down to us, down to the EV Cafe, down to all the people watching and listening today, all of us, to do our bit where we can. And it is interesting because our members say if there is misinformation out there, you know, 90% say they want the AA to address that. They want the AA to. So again, they are not hostile. They don't hate EVs, but they're getting this misinformation. You know, and even this morning, I was saying to John and Paul earlier, even this morning, you know, I've had a national newspaper on, really trying to hype the stuff I was talking about on charging to make out that EVs don't work in the cold, you know, and yet I have the figures. You know, we are the biggest breakdown organisation in the UK. No one has more figures on EVs running out of charge or otherwise than the AA. So, you know, we are the oracle on that. So I guess my plea to everyone in terms of love and hate, we all love them, we do, and we've got to continue with that enthusiasm. But also, we've got to have that little bit of kind of humility, humanity, to take people along with us and to accept that at the moment, we do need to level up a bit when it comes to EVs. It is a lot easier if you've got a company car or salary sacrifice, if you live in a house with off-street parking, etc. That is easier. A lot of people don't. So we've got to find ways to bring them with us. And obviously with a general election coming, not being a political thing, but we'll have our own motoring manifesto and it will look at lots of these issues. So I'm optimistic on Valentine's Day. I think we can spread that love, and you guys are doing a brilliant job in spreading that love. And that's why the AA is proud to be part of the EV Cafe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edmund. Always a pleasure to hear from you. And we certainly need to grab that soundbite from your intro. One for later. Be careful what you wish for, JC. The questions are starting to pour in. And I know you guys also have questions for the EV King, but we must hold fire until we bring our final guest speaker for today onto the EV Cafe, because as always, we are behind on time. Yes, JC.
Can I run a little video, do you think?
We can.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a titchy one, but quite important to me. Thank you, darling. Now, I rather hope that I can, because it would appear that it's not there. Oh, no. Just bear with.
We're all excited then.
The drama. Right, here we go.
Anticipation there, John.
I know, mate. I built it up and then, you know, standard. I'm a letdown. Share screen. It's there. Let's do it. Go.
Where the heck have you been? Charging. Anyway, we're here for a new gold sponsor. Who is it? Oh, God, it's gone. I'm lucky enough to be with Alan Castle, marketing manager at Webfleet. Alan, the EV Cafe,
Why have you taken the bold step to sponsor the EV Cafe?
Hi, John. Thank you. Well, Webfleet have been establishing and growing the brand in the kind of electric vehicle for commercial electric vehicles, telematics in particular, but also supporting those journeys in decarbonisation. And we feel now's a really good time to align ourselves to the EV Cafe. We can see all the brilliant stuff you're doing, you and your team, in terms of creating that kind of collaboration of environment between the suppliers, whether that's EV charging providers, the OEM manufacturers, the data providers such as ourselves, but also the end users. And we also admire the fact you have those conversations around government policy, what's going on in the space, and how we can really innovate and drive the whole industry together. And it's a great time for us to come on board and be a part of the conversation and really join you on this journey.
Oh, bless you. Can't thank you enough for that. I'm going to go and talk to Richard Parker, who's your EV specialist, to find out more about how you help fleets to decarbonise.
Excellent, thank you.
So, Richard, you're an EV consultant.
Yeah.
What's that?
Okay, so brand new role, unique to Webfleet in the whole of our European operation. And essentially, I'm tasked with having more conversations and enabling our people and our resellers to have more conversations with their customers to accelerate decarbonisation in their fleets. That simple.
So let's pick that apart a little bit. How do you decarbonise fleets? How do you help them to do that?
Well, we start with what's here there today. Okay, so we've got, you can see on this wall here, we've got telematics that can collect the data, and to our friend Mr. Kirby, that provides data, and data schmata, as we all know. You know, what we really want is insight, all right? And that insight is delivered in two ways. One, through direct driver intervention. Secondly, through the insights that we can help organisations right through the stakeholder map to make decisions about not only what they change today, but what they need to plan and enact for tomorrow to help them transition to zero emission vehicles.
Perfect. So simple explanation. That collects the data.
Correct.
That then feeds that to the driver.
Correct.
So they understand what they're doing.
Correct.
Then you can do further analysis to get to insights about the wider fleet and how it's performing.
Absolutely. So it's see what's there today, plan for tomorrow, and measure the result of that to ensure that what you've done is actually turning out the way you expected it to do.
That's fantastic, Richard. Best of luck with that journey.
Great to be on board with you guys.
Good man. And where exactly have you been?
Well, charging or trying to.
I've interviewed Alan, I've interviewed Richard, and I've learned loads.
What have you learned?
Data is turned into insights, which is just so useful for fleets.
Man, that will make such a difference
You
for them.
betcha. Turn knowledge into power. Oh,
Power?
Sorry about mentioning the power.
See, it happens. Even at head offices, sometimes you need help charging your car.
Not sure I can get on board with that music.
Unkindly, we were referred to as Morecambe and Unwise.
I said Chuckle Brothers. To me,
I thought Chuckle Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lauren Hardy.
Today, I think.
Lauren Hardy for me.
Excellent video, guys. Welcome on board Webfleet. And Sam, over to you, mate, for the next best guest speaker, which is Doctor, I believe.
Oh yeah, he's so annoying. He's just such an annoying guest. He's got more intelligence in his big toe than I've got in my whole body. And he has a very good knack as well of making really boring things really interesting. So he's just very annoying, isn't he? Anyway, Dr. Ewan McTurk, he is a consultant in battery electrochemist who has been working on and driving electric vehicles since 2009, including stints working on cutting-edge battery research at the University of Oxford. Heard of that? Yeah. And WMG. Haven't heard of that. You'll have to tell me what that is. In 2018, Ewan started his YouTube channel, Plug Life Television, to explain how batteries work in a way that anyone can understand. And I have used videos of his hundreds of times to make me understand and bust several myths along the way. In 2020, Ewan founded Plug Life Consulting, which provides technical, strategic, project management and public outreach services to projects related to battery tech, electric vehicles, energy storage systems, and charging infrastructure. That's a long sentence. Thank you, Ewan. Right, fun fact, and I can't get my head around this one, so I'm really hoping you said it wrong. He was given a special green apron for his student shifts at B&Q during his uni days, during which there was apparently a substantial surge, like what you did there, in sales of LED light bulbs versus days when I wasn't in, you said. Now, surely it should have been a surge in sales when you were in.
Oh no, when I was in, yeah.
Yeah,
So
good
yeah,
one.
I remember like
Yes.
one of the
We knew
managers
it.
kind of pulling me aside and saying, "Hang on a minute. So you do Saturday shifts, right? I've got the kind of stock up here. If you have a look at the sales figures, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like that. It was genuinely this massive spike because yeah, I was so determined to try and push green products of any kind of description. I ended up being the store's environmental champion, and they gave us a nice little green apron. So yeah,
Good. Have you still got the green apron?
I do. It'll be kicking about in the loft somewhere. I've kept hold of that as a memento. There's not too many of them.
He's wearing it now. He's wearing it.
Yeah. Well, you can always use it if you're flower arranging, which is your other fun fact.
Oh,
which
of
we had last
course.
time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we've heard amazing things from Europcar, amazing things from Edmund at the AA, and two very different perspectives of the same challenge. Yours again is another one entirely, right? So yeah, we're obviously got a little bit of time left, so just share some of your thoughts, please, Ewan, if you'd be kind enough from your perspective.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, just as a little bit of background, Plug Life Consulting is what I do these days. So having spent the first sort of 10 to 15 years of my career as a lab-based electrochemist, but also an EV driver since 2009, I've got that unique set of knowledge and contacts that I'm able to bring together. So if there's any projects to do with battery electrochemistry, electric vehicles, charging infrastructure, or energy storage, I'm able to help from a technical, strategic, or a public outreach perspective. So some recent examples include not just Plug Life Television, but the Faster project that installed 75 rapid chargers across Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, and the rural west of Scotland. I was brought in to do their webinars, their in-person road shows, and EV reviews as well. So that's all on the Faster Project YouTube channel. I've done a series of technical white papers for the Vehicle Remarketing Association so that EV dealers know what they're dealing with and how to educate the public on the advantages of EVs and how to use them. So, I mean, that's something that we've all come across when we've been trying to buy an electric vehicle. You'll often find that the retailers don't really know what they're talking about yet. So these white papers are helping to make sure that quite a lot of used car dealers will probably end up with better knowledge than some mainstream dealers until some of those OEMs catch up. So, you know, things like that, that's what I've got on the go at the moment. There's also a new series of white papers coming, or short articles, I should say, coming for the early mainstream from a consumer perspective to try and educate them on and reassure them about the advantages of electric vehicles. So watch out for some big announcements on that soon. And there's also, very quickly as well, I've teamed up with the former creative director of Fully Charged and The Late Break Show, Mark Taylor Hankins, who is an incredible, camera crew and director and editor. And there's some very exciting new episodes of Plug Life Television coming to the channel soon. But obviously, today we're talking about love and hate, so we'll go with hate first. And the thing that I hate at the moment when it comes to EVs is that they have such an intense, powerful spotlight of scrutiny put on them at all times, which is fair enough if you apply the same level of scrutiny to internal combustion engine vehicles or to consumer electronics that also use batteries. But that's not the case. You'll often find that the detractors will say EVs are terrible because of this reason, but hydrogen's the future somehow, despite the fact that hydrogen requires 2.5 times as much electricity to do the same job as an EV, and most hydrogen comes from fossil fuels, and it actually requires more fossil fuels to make hydrogen than it does to just burn those fossil fuels in an internal combustion engine. But also you look at, for example, the naysayers who say that EVs use cobalt and it's all like slave labor. No, it's not. It's all child labor. No, it's not. Whilst very casually filling up their petrol or diesel car, which by the way uses cobalt every time you fill it up, because cobalt's used to refine petrol and diesel. It's that unthinking nature of the average naysayer, who incidentally has probably never driven an electric vehicle in their life, and annoyingly they're given quite a lot of power on whether it's social media comments or actually like newspaper comment sections and full-on articles. People who genuinely don't understand this topic at all are given far too much of a voice and put on par with people who have been driving EVs for years and are aware of all of these massive improvements that are coming right across the supply chain, not just in terms of the EVs and the batteries themselves, but how they're made, how they're recycled, and so on. And that's not equality at all. You cannot compare expertise with ignorance. That's not how this works. That's absolute disinformation, and that needs to be tackled head on. And it's not just electric vehicles. There's a whole bunch of different matters that have been caught up in culture wars recently, and we really need to be calming down and going back to trusting experts and actually leaning on them again for advice rather than Dave Down Weatherspoons who told you that EVs cause cancer or something. So yeah, that's the major bit of hate that I've got at the moment. And it's not EVs' fault, it's the detractors of EVs and the fact that they need to desperately get some education and stop trying to disinform people. But when it comes to the love side of things, I've got a little origin story for you about a very special little car. So I'm just going to very quickly share a PowerPoint. Tell me if you can see this. So that is my first ever EV and a very, very old photograph of me, a very unflattering angle for Dundee, which definitely looks a lot better than that these days. But that is the 1999 Peugeot 106 electric that started it all off, because back when I was an undergrad student at Dundee studying renewable energy as an applied physics degree, that car pulled up next to me outside the physics building one day, and I said, well, I need to do my project around that, obviously. So yeah, the 106 is a fantastic wee machine. There were a handful of them made it to the UK, powered by NiCad batteries, built by Peugeot as an EV in the mid to late 90s. But very few of them survive today, and this one had somehow managed to kind of slip the net and end up in Dundee. So the cool thing about this car is it had tartan seats. It's still got the best interior I've seen in any car I've ever owned. And in case you're wondering how you get the thing to go, the drive selector is that little button on the dashboard there, which is right next to the cigarette lighter. There's a fun story about how Coventry City Council, who had some as pool cars back in the day, someone parked it next to the canal, thought they'd hit the drive selector, they'd actually hit the cigarette lighter, reversed it into the canal and drowned it. But yeah, this one obviously didn't meet a watery end. It ended up being very well looked after. So this is how you charged an EV back in the day. That weird paddle thing where you normally have a Type 2 socket today, that's called a Marshall paddle. And that was very much of its time. There wasn't really any public charging infrastructure that supported it. And then the other side was a 3-pin plug that obviously you would just plug into any wall socket. So I had that upgraded to Type 2. There it is, using at the time, modern charge point next to what at the time was a perfectly modern Mitsubishi Outlander. So, I'd kind of dragged it kicking and screaming into the 21st century. It was a sensibly sized car as well. The other thing I hate about EVs at the moment, and it's not just EVs, it's the trend towards SUVification, to do tasks that smaller cars were perfectly capable of doing 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, and are still today. And the only reason that so many people are going for SUVs is as some sort of arms race, so they feel safer in this giant forest of SUVs on the road. That's not right. Let's go back to smaller, less resource intensive, lighter vehicles. But yeah, this was such a sensibly sized vehicle. You could fit it inside a building, even if it was a bit of a tight squeeze to get it into the building in the first place, as you will see from the rather intense expression on my face as I'm trying not to destroy the wing mirrors on it. So yeah, you mentioned B&Q. It was my little commuter. Not with actually, I'm colorblind. I can't tell if that's the green apron or the
it is.
It is. Oh, there we go. I thought that was the orange one. That's my color blindness for you. So yeah, special green apron. I think I must have been the only B&Q employee with an electric vehicle at that point, possibly ever. And that actually made it into the B&Q Talking Shop magazine on several occasions as well, because funnily enough, people were curious about it and quite regularly wanted a lift to and from work if they were en route for me. At one point, I owned 2 of these cars and then decided that was a bit silly. A couple of anecdotes for you. So one of the things I love about EVs is the incredible mechanical reliability of them and just general reliability of them versus any kind of petrol car. So there was a really cold winter, I think it was 2010 in Dundee, and the 12-volt lead acid battery failed in the car. So the one that does your lights, your wipers and everything like that. Any petrol or diesel car would instantly be bricked at that point and you'd need to jump start it. But all I lost was the remote central locking. So I put the key in what would have previously been the ignition, don't know what you'd call it now, and you heard the traction battery switch on. The main kind of NiCad, but it was literally upgraded to lithium-ion battery, switch on, and then it was feeding the 12-volt auxiliary circuit through the DC to DC converter. So that meant that the car was able to drive around for a fortnight in sub-zero conditions before I could be bothered to replace the ailing 12-volt battery. Also, it survived the great fuel crisis of 2012. There was a big queue for the petrol station that's just out of view there at the end of the B&Q car park. So that meant I was very smug about that. That was my first ever meme, which actually ended up becoming this Plug Life meme that won a competition that My Energy ran a wee while ago. Never did get the Zappi charger though, so Send us it, please. Anyway, point is that that ended up inspiring the name for a YouTube channel I've been thinking about for a while, Plug Life Television, which then became Plug Life Consulting. So this one car is very much the car that launched my career, as well as my interest in electric vehicles. It's the reason I'm talking to you today, and it was all because of a chance encounter. But sadly, in 2016, I told you it had been latterly upgraded to a lithium iron, it was lithium iron phosphate battery. It ended up parked on a very, very steep driveway in the very rainy west of Scotland, and it was absolutely tipping it down. And unfortunately, the weatherproof cover off of the battery management system, which was bolted onto it to deal with the lithium-ion battery, the weatherproof cover had come loose, water got into it and bricked the battery pack, which basically retired the car. So it ended up in Dundee Museum of Transport, and then latterly Grampian Transport Museum. However, the fundamental guts of the car still work. It was just the battery side of things. So recently, I've been sitting thinking, you know, I do miss that car. Yes, I've got like a Tesla now. I've got a Leaf that's powering this conversation through a vehicle to grid charger right now. I've got some amazing tech out there, but I miss my first ever EV. So the good news is it's currently having a battery transplant, and it'll be back on the road very soon. So our little EV love story continues.
Good news. You and the end. Yeah, we're gonna have to cut you off just because of time. It's an amazing story. So thank you very much for that. It's absolutely fantastic. I didn't actually know any of that myself either, so it's really useful to hear.
Get the other guys on as well.
Yeah. Please, you guys want to come on?
Edmund.
Right, so guys, we've only got a little bit of time left for Q&A, so the questions are going to have to be rapid fire. JC, are you going to take that on?
Oh, yes. Right. Okay, Sarah, how do you live with an EV without a home charger?
I make sure that I stick to as many A roads as possible, and I always ask, do you have a destination charger for when I get there?
Mark, you mentioned having a Tesla. Do Tesla superchargers suffer from the queuing issue of other charging stations?
I've not encountered that. No.
Oh, I love a brief answer. Right, okay. Marvin Samuels asks generally, so let's start with Edmund. What efforts are EV-related companies making to try and employ talent from outside of the industry?
Yeah, certainly. We're doing that at the AA, particularly looking at connected car and how that links to EVs. So we are looking at lots of talent, particularly data scientists from outside of automotive are coming on board, and we're investing millions in that. And it was really gratifying at the British Motor Show to have some people, I think, from Imperial College come up to me and say, how do we get into this industry? So it is changing.
Thank you. Mark, a question from Darren Anvona. He says, if you don't bring your petrol car back to 100% when you return the car, you get charged a fee.
Yeah.
Is the same true for electric? If you don't bring it back, you bring it back at 20%. Do you have to pay 80% to get it charged again?
No.
How good is that?
No, we're trying to, it's really important at the moment. We're trying to remove those barriers just to get folk to use EVs. And at some point in the future, when all fleets are EV, you might need to look at things differently. But at the moment, we're trying to remove barriers and get folk to give them a go.
And whilst you're on, Linda Grave asks, how long do you keep your EVs for?
Yeah, it depends on the mechanism we've used to source the vehicle, and on the use case in which the customer is using it. But it can be a year, it can be 2 years, it can be 3 years, it can be 6 months. It very much depends on how we source the vehicle.
Okay, and one final question, which is just going to summarise a question that Michael Barton from Bristol has asked. Mark, you got 86% of your employees into EVs. How did you do that? Very short answer.
Yeah, a really strong commitment from the business that we wanted to do it. We took our staff on a journey of helping them adopt. We gave them a range of vehicles that they could source. And again, you just break down the barriers so they can see that it's possible.
Brilliant. Edmund, what do you do to encourage people to drive EV?
Yeah, I think it is spreading the messages, the positivity, to show that there are cost savings, to show that they're great to drive. So, all sorts of things. I know someone was asking on the chat about how do you choose an EV? I mean, one of the things I do personally, I blog about EVs. So I had the new Model 3 last week. I'm getting the Polestar next week. So you can always go to my blog because I'm independent, but I love cars.
And very briefly, Ewan, this person that Edmund has talked about has a choice of 3 vehicles. They've narrowed it down to 3. The Volvo EX30, car of the year, MG4, great for a budget, and a Tesla Model 3. Given that choice and doing 120-mile journeys occasionally, what would you choose?
Standard range Model 3. It's got an LFP battery in it, lithium iron phosphate. So there's no cobalt in there, which is perfect for shouting down the naysayers. It's also exceptionally unlikely to catch fire, even in a worst case scenario, because LFP, you basically have to have at it with a blowtorch before it even thinks about doing anything that remotely resembles combusting. It's longer lasting as well. I mean, it does get a bit chilly in winter, and it loses a bit of range. But that said, Tesla's very good with their thermal management. MG4, I've heard too many reliability issues recently. I don't have too much to say about the Volvo. It does look as if it's a much better platform than the MG4, admittedly. But in fact, that said, does the Volvo also have an entry level LFP pack, if I remember correctly? If it's the very new, if it's the very latest, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. It depends on whether you want a saloon or a hatchback. If you really want a hatchback, then the LFP version of the Volvo would get it. But if you can live with a saloon and it's a very big boot with that massive kind of Ducat, it's not just a kind of flat boot. There's that massive space. You can probably hide a person in it. Not that you'd want to, obviously. But if you can get away with it, then the Model 3 is a good shout, and it's obviously got
That's a short answer from you.
Yeah, sorry, that is short by my standards. But we've at least excluded one of the three.
And we learned a new word, Ducat, or a dovecot, as it is in England. Thank you very much
right,
to all of our guests.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's all we have time for, everybody. We could do another hour, couldn't we? A massive thank you to Edmund, Mark, and of course the Doctor, and for all those who participated in the chat. It's been very interesting, and thanks for all the questions. So the only thing last to say really is please make sure you're registered for next month's session. Don't forget to follow us on social media channels for updates. And remember, every Friday morning, catch up with the latest news hosted by the amazing John Curtis. Thank you for joining us, and I will just go to Paul. It looks a bit, he's got something dying.
Every Wednesday for the podcast, where we get to talk to many of these wonderful people and hear their life stories, including you and Edmund, and soon to Mark as well.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Well said. Yes.
Any final comments from you, Edmund?
No, just thank you all for listening. Have a happy Valentine's Day, and let's keep promoting the message.
Brilliant. What about you, Mark? Any final comments?
No, it's been a really fast hour. I've really enjoyed it. If I had one wish, it'd be for Cupid to fire an arrow into Fleet Street and turn it into Fact Street, and then we could all
love that. Loving that. Coming with the arrows.
And finally, you want to wrap up today's session?
Oh no, honestly, I think Mark's ended it exactly where it needs to be. We need to be tackling that disinformation. There's clearly enough love. There's clearly enough experience. People can speak to anyone who's driven an EV before, go to the likes of the Arnold Clark Innovation Centre, EV Roadshows, Fully Charged Live, all of this. But we need to be tackling that disinformation that comes from a position of sheer ignorance. So let's concentrate on the facts.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Keep loving EV.
Thank you, everyone.
Well done, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.